Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, according to where you are in the world. It's Mrs. M here. Carl is actually dealing with the kids at the moment, but we are delighted to welcome you to our show tonight. I'm back in the game. I'm looking a bit like Aunt Sally. I've just had this bath and my whole face has gone really red and puffy. And now, oh my goodness, I look terrible. But anyway, you have to put up with me. But I have got some eye candy for you tonight. We are being joined by our new friend, and hopefully soon to be old friend, Lonny McLaughlin. I'm probably pronounced that surname wrong. Let's bring him on. How do I pronounce your last name, Lonny?
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin, I did it right. That's great. I look so much better at a distance when I'm not actually on the big screen. Thank you so much for joining me and balancing it out. So I can see we've got quite a few people watching us already. It's 14 so far, and it's growing minute by minute. Come and say hello. Let us know where you're listening in from and what you've been up to today and what you'd like to know from Lonny. Before we get going, Lonny, tell us a bit about yourself. I know you've been you're a gumper, aren't you? You've been on the Good Morning Portugal show, chatting away.
I am. Let's see. I first came across Good Morning Portugal back in March or so, and couldn't stop watching it. Given the time difference, I chose to watch it in my evenings on rebroadcast. So I watched most of my shows in the evening, and so that's why I got connected to Good Morning Portugal and Carl, and I've become an addict of Good Morning Portugal, and it's been a really great structure and support for me making my move to Portugal. It's a great transition. So.
And you're here now as well, aren't you?
I'm here. I'm in Porto now. I have an apartment here in Porto for the next 6 months while I figure out where I'm going to land permanently. But that's the plan.
Fantastic. Well, before we hear more, let's just say hello to some of our good friends watching from around the world. We've got Mordazam saying good night. So I'm guessing you're in the same time zone as us, but I don't know where you're from. So let us know. Nubia Net is joining us again. Well, hello there. Family Munson. Hola, Lonny. Is that actually Carl being clever, or is that actually another family called Munson? Let me know, because Carl is with the kids, so I have no idea right now. We've got Feverstock Photo. Hi, watching from London. Feverstock. I've seen so many videos today about protests and stuff. What's going on near you? Let us know. We got Suzanne Derringer. Hello, Gumpers, checking in from Pittsburgh. What time would it be in Pittsburgh right now, Lonny? Any idea?
Let's see, 5 hours earlier, so about 5 p.m. Decent time, still live.
It's incredible that we're being joined by people, during the daytime on a Saturday. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Want to hear about Lonny's journey? Okay. Cindy B is back. Boa noite from Texas for only a couple more weeks. She's joining us here soon. That's great. We got Carlos and Lisa. Good evening from SF. San Francisco, I'm guessing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great to see you here tonight. Rebel Mama, and I know Rebel Mama is joining us very soon. Up close and personal. Ola from Sojao, or no, Sojo. I don't know. Let me know. In the Pinedo Gerês National Park. I love Gerês. When we first came, we went to Gerês. It's great. I'm awake for now, but may have to go to sleep since my natural clock says it's bedtime. Oh, we got so many. We're going to have to come back to you all in a second, because I must ask Lonny just a little bit. What are your first impressions? Because I know you came to Portugal when we met you, actually, in your first visit. Mm-hmm. What were your first impressions then? And what are your impressions now? How have they changed over the last couple of months? Has it been 2 months or 3 months since we last saw you?
Let's see. Last time I saw you was, I believe, the end of July.
Oh, yeah. That's quite a while ago, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how have your perceptions changed since you've moved to Portugal?
Well, the biggest difference is I actually felt this time like I was coming home. I had such a great time on my first trip. And this might sound strange, because I'd never been to Portugal before. And I decided I was moving here without having been here. Uh-huh. And when I got here, it felt like home. I mean, I felt it was so welcomed, and I met so many kind people. I had some challenges, logistic things, and I was really surprised by the kindness and generosity of complete strangers. And
Mm,
that has not disappointed. I'm back, and it just feels comfortable and home and welcoming.
excellent.
Yeah.
That really sort of matches my first impressions of Portugal, and my continued sort of understanding of it is the generosity. Trouble, we've got some trouble now. Carl's joining us, he's back. People are saying, you look so different tonight. Your hair is looking so long. And of course it's for me. That's me. That's Raphael saying that.
I suspected so.
Raphael, I've just got this growth spurt. It's down to my just above my waist at the moment.
Something
It's
in the
really,
water.
really long.
Have you heard have I missed Lonny telling the story?
Are you family Munson?
Yes, don't worry. It was just a joke.
Just wondering where that came from.
It wasn't a new stalker for you. You're quite safe.
You haven't missed the journey. I was just asking Lonny about his first impressions
of being in Portugal.
Yeah.
Good evening, Lonny.
And how they've changed.
Oh, I'm not being rude, Lonny, because we did have a little chat before we came here tonight. I'm not being all cavalier and nonchalant about the great Lonny McLaughlin being here. No, seriously, Lonny, we've when we met you last time, we had such a lovely time talking with you, and I'm sure it's going to be like that again tonight.
Yeah,
and it is a real pleasure and delight to know that you're on the same soil.
It is for me too, Carl. It really is. It's great to be here.
We had it in our heads that you were coming a little bit sooner than you'd arrived, and we were talking to our good friends Mike and Dee, who I think you're going to be meeting soon as well.
Yes, we're chatting. We're talking about having lunch next Thursday. So
fantastic! Because like when we saw them, we were like, "Well, we haven't heard from Lonny," and they were like, "What?
Yeah, he's so
no,
rude.
we haven't heard from him either." And we were like, "Where is he? Has he snubbed us?"
Well, I will spell it. I'll spare you with what I was preoccupied with over the last several months. It really was not inspiring at all. Just getting my ducks in a row so I could be here.
Yeah, but it can take a while.
Yeah, so glad you are. You are.
Yeah.
Rebel Mama, have you? I guess you said a good night or good evening and hello to a few folks, Mrs.
Yes,
M.
we got down as far as.
Well, we've got to get this photo in quick. Lonny, you're going to love this. I think this is north of you in Portugal, and you've read this I think earlier. And well done, anybody who's still awake at this time, because we know there are a few expats here who normally sleep, and the intersection of this show is people who are still awake at 10 o'clock, who don't go out on a Saturday night anymore. So well done if you managed to stay awake this far. So let's get Rebel Mama's picture on the screen quick before she nods off. These are amazing from today. This is the Peneda Giros National Park. Yes. Look at this. When we want to know if these are paintings or other filtered photographs. This is where you can visit further north from you, Lonny. We came in when we arrived in Portugal. We came in through this magical part of the country, and this picture even more amazing. I think. Look at that. Wow.
That just looks like a watercolor or an oil painting.
Yes, yeah, like a Portuguese landscape painter has committed that to canvas. So, Rebel Mama, you can go to bed now if you like. Your pictures have been immortalized. Keep them coming. I mean, those are superb. And that was your ramble. She's in the Growing Old Disgracefully squad, the God Squad. And I think that was part of your exercise today, right, Rebel Mama? Do let us know in the comments tonight. And the show is entitled Transformational Travel. And as we know, Lonny, he's all about the transformation, as I think a lot of people are now, whether they like it or not, it would seem, in the times that we live in. We're almost being encouraged to take a good look at ourselves, aren't we? Culturally and personally. So that's on the agenda tonight. You kindly offered, Lonny, as well to talk about. I think you came to our aid and help because somebody said it's all very well growing all this facial hair for Movember, but no one's actually talking about the male health issue. So we could open the batting up with that tonight as well. And obviously finding out about your journey. There are many Americans. It's a much better time for Americans to tune in, and they might want to ask you questions about your journey coming over from the United States as well. So lots to talk about tonight. Transformational times. Would you agree?
I do. I think the world is changing rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've met.
It sounded like you wanted to come in with something of a transformational nature there, but weren't quite sure whether to or not.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, all right. I know you so well.
But it's early. We've got loads of time to start getting like deep
you
and
want
meaningful.
To filter the atmosphere before you come out with some real
I need to test the water
stuff.
a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, look, have we seen this comment yet?
No.
Oh my goodness, that's my sister.
Hello, sister.
That's nice.
Lovely to have you here.
Where are you at the moment, Jen? Are you in Europe or are you back in the States?
She's in Pennsylvania, back where I came from.
She will be saying, you will be shouting that out, like answering your question. Pennsylvania.
Because I mean, that's I think one of the most transformational things about being in a different country is like, you know, how do your relationships persist? You know, it's a huge thing because, you know, there's expat guilt potentials. You know, there's people who feel like they're being left behind and other people feeling like they're moving on, and it's a real balance. So
well, that's certainly something, is a recurring thing that we might want to talk about tonight. But why don't we kick off with this transformational idea with travel? We know it broadens the mind, and you know, lots of great benefits are known about traveling, and you know, getting away from it or having a change of scene, change is good as a rest, and all that sort of stuff. And then there is this, I think there is this other side of it that we're not afraid to talk about here with Expats Portugal and with Feelgood Portugal, about the chateau side, perhaps. And this is something that's come up. We've got lots of great friends in this conversation.
Yeah.
You know, Jim, who we spoke to some while ago. Jeff, happy birthday to Jeff, whose birthday is today as well. Jeff, who joined us a little while ago. But Jim joined us to talk about how the therapeutic community might come to the aid of people, expats, new expats in the country, who are struggling with some of those things that don't get talked about necessarily. So it's a lot of upside, isn't it, that gets talked about, obviously, from the people who are making money out of bringing you to a new country. They only really want to tell you about the upside, understandably. And then there's the things that we might struggle with or not be so aware of on the other side, like the thing you mentioned, the expat guilt. And the positioning, you know, what we're coming here for. Are we running away from something? As you know, let's face it, sometimes people might be. Or are we running towards something? Would you care to go through that distinction a little bit with us, Lonny, about whether it's away from something or embracing something?
Well, I can speak for myself. You know, I've talked to lots of people who've moved here, and there's a whole range of reasons. My purpose for coming was to create. This is going to sound maybe kind of out there, but I'm at a point in my life that I want to create a new life. And I could think of no better way than to fulfill a lifelong dream of living in Europe. And nothing more bold than going to a country I'd never been to before, a language I don't speak, with no one that I know, and let's give it a go.
Amazing.
And so, you know, I really did come here with the intention of discovering something about myself, discovering something about life and what's possible, and a bit of pushing myself and getting outside of my comfort zone of being 67 and winding down. I think that's a silly conversation to be in.
I think there are a few gasps there. He's not 67.
Yeah, I mean, did you hear me? My goodness,
you.
You don't appear to be 67 at all. I did recall hearing you and Carl chatting like before the show and talking about like a Father Christmas beard and stuff. But and it is very fitting for this time of year. But there's no way you're 67.
Yeah, stop it.
I know you just had your birthday and all that. When you were talking about like a new opportunity for yourself, one of the words that sort of like popped into my mind was kind of making yourself vulnerable. Like, I remember really clearly, like 4 years ago when Carl and I were here, we could barely even whisper our order in a bar because we felt so embarrassed that we didn't speak the language. And you know, with the sort of the fact that we're English, you know, we say sorry a lot and thank you a lot. It's like sort of like inbred sort of embarrassment to be alive. How do you feel? I mean, are you feeling quite vulnerable? Like, have you had those sort of moments of vulnerability or?
Disculpe.
That is literally the first word I said.
I'm apologizing all the time.
The funny thing is that word is written like disculpe, and actually it's pronounced like schkulp.
So you can say sorry about how you're saying sorry incorrectly.
And I remember like we got a fine instantly on coming into the country. We drove on a motorway without pulling out a ticket, and you couldn't buy it sort of like at the end. Unfortunately, you know, we had to pay the full length of the motorway as if we were like convicts. And the very first word I said was disculpe. I think they were like, oh, here we go, tourist.
But there is something about it, because I'm conscious of. I actually feel like I'm an intruder. I'm in someone else's home. I'm in someone else's country, and I love what I've found, and I have a regard for it. I don't want to be a problem. So, there's a sort of a balance between respect and humility, and I try to come more from there than being embarrassed for being a clumsy American, a loud, clumsy American, which I'm conscious of. So I'm tending to that. So it is that sort of finding your way in an unfamiliar setting. I have a bit of social anxiety to begin with, so it makes it even more difficult. So, but it's part of this journey is discovering sort of nooks and crannies of myself. It's good to be vulnerable. It's good to not know. It's really great to not know what you're doing. It's great to have to create ways of functioning and adapting and surprising yourself with how well you do or how poorly you do. But that's where, at least for me, that's where I grow. I learn more from my mistakes and my embarrassment than I ever did from already knowing things and having things together. So.
Well said. Yeah,
definitely.
And perhaps we can talk about some of those strategies that you use for doing that, because I'm sure people will be interested in that. And the very notion of starting a new life, that is bold and amazing. I think will be inspiring to other people as well. Let's see a few more hellos here. Rugby Colin is here.
Is that his new name now? After I pronounced it,
after you thought he was French. He's not French at all, but he is now Rugby Colin.
I thought his name was Rugby Colin. Like it's obviously Rugby Colin.
Yes. Well, he is Rugby Colin to us all now. And Earl is here. Earl has been trying so hard to come from the United States. He's joined us on webinars for as long as I can remember. He was nearly here. Then he tested positive for COVID. Didn't feel at all poorly, but was tested positive, so he couldn't fly. And then he stayed in the hotel, I think, near the airport after getting that test, determined to fly as soon as he was able to be tested again. And now he is in Porto. Well done, Earl. You are a legend, sir. And Deagle, hi, Lonnie. Not technically legally, but how easy, warm has the community? Have you read this one?
No.
Okay. How warm has the welcome been? I think I know red tape can be awkward, but have you met and engaged easily with locals? Perhaps that's a thing for Deagle that he's asking, and that's something he's anticipating. How's that? You
I
touched
imagine
on it briefly.
I imagine Lonnie is engaging with the locals very easily.
Let's find out.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, Carl, both of you, I took a tour back in July when I first got here, 48 hours. I did one of those little Airbnb experiences. And I purposely took Carl's coaching when I came here, which was something like this. He said, don't come as a tourist. Spend a month in Portugal, and as best you can, live here like you're a citizen, and try to figure out where the stores are and where we had a Zoom call, and he just gave me some coaching. I said, that's really great. I don't want to be a tourist. I want to get an experience of what it's like to be here. So I looked for an Airbnb experience, and I went through all the sort of touristy things, and one stood out. And it was a young guy who said, let me take you on a tour of the town I grew up in.
Wow.
And I read this little simple description. It wasn't flashy or anything. And I did this tour, and his name is Ralph. He took me on a tour of Amarant, and he brought a friend with him on the tour because he wasn't very confident with his English. He's going to be embarrassed if he hears this, but we had the most fantastic day together. I mean, he showed me where he went to school. He drove me past his parents' home. He took me into a local wine store with someone that he knew. He took me to a little place along the river where the guy we were with was friends of the owner, who was a DJ playing great music. And we had a beer and a sandwich, and it was a lovely day. And it was, this tour with what turned out to be two lovely people and a friendship. I did a review of the day, and it was just like I'm sharing with you. It was just heartfelt and honest about my experience. The next day, he sent me a message and said, "Thank you so much." He said, "Would you like to come to dinner?"
That's so nice.
So I went to his home on Sunday night, which I understand is family day, and I was a little nervous about coming to someone's home on family day. And they had a 1-month-old infant, and his partner is a lovely woman and cooked a great traditional Portuguese meal. And I heard was getting this invitation. I had no idea how to prepare it. I went on the Expats Portugal website and said, "What can I bring? What can I?" And somebody said, "Bring a nice bottle of wine." Somebody else posted, "Whatever you do not bring wine." So anyway, bring something for the lady. Bring something for her. So I did, but
what did you bring for the lady?
I brought some really great handmade chocolates, handmade truffles, and I found a beautiful chocolate store here in Porto and brought her a really special gift, and she loved it. And I've stayed in touch with them, and I've coached him a little bit with his business.
Excellent.
And I got stuck here recently I lost my backpack, and I said, "I am so sorry to bother you." I said, "I have this problem, and I wonder if you could." He said, "Hold on, I'll meet you at the police station."
Wow.
I mean, and the guy was there and walked me through the whole thing. I mean, I was moved. I just really was moved to tears by. He said, "I'm in my pajamas. I'll be there in 15 minutes."
What did you say? I'll change into mine as well. Is that what you do when you go to a police station?
I said, "No, I think I can find the police station. I think I'll be fine." He said, "No, I'm on the metro. It's all good. It's good."
Incredible.
But this is someone I didn't know before I did an Airbnb experience, and just a lovely human being. And I have to own this. About one of the things I learned about myself is I bring with me a certain amount of Western cynicism and skepticism. And I live in a culture that's often transactional. So I'm always expecting, what do they really? If someone's really nice to me, what do they? Do they want something in return? And that's hard to let in, that people are authentically generous and helpful as a self-expression.
Yes.
And expecting nothing in return. And that's moving to me.
Yeah.
That is amazing when you put it like that. That's really special. Yes. Yeah. Just as a way of, I can't quite remember the phrase you used there, but just as a way of being, or as a way of being.
Yeah. As a way of being, as a self-expression. It's authentic, and it's true, and it's and I think we could, as human beings, I think on some level we do know when it's the real thing.
Yeah.
But boy, our brain patterns are wired for being tricked and conned. So
yeah.
So true. So true. Sorry, those names aren't right, but people need to know who you are for sure.
Yes.
But we might be able to adjust the other bit in a moment, or see who's still awake doing that. But that's a beautiful story there. I'm not a story, you know what I mean? A beautiful experience that you shared with us. I always hesitate to use the word story. Talk about news stories, and story between in other contexts is something we tell ourselves that isn't necessarily true. But that I just feel that the total ring of Portuguese authenticity about that, and what a lovely thing. And I think it answers Deagle's question there, doesn't it? With certainly a warm engagement with local people there. So that's beautiful. Maxine, I think, is talking to herself here. I'm not yawning, trying to stay awake. But then no, time to sleep. She's got to go. We've got family here, haven't we?
Yeah, and we've got Simon Wright joining us as well from Nottinghamshire.
Thank you, Simon, for doing that. Rebel Mama, 2 hikes, 1 yesterday, 1 today. Going back to those pictures, trying to be out while the weather is dry. But yeah, and this is the time of year to be making those sort of calls, isn't it? I think. And look, it's Travis, Uncle Lonny.
Oh my God.
That is so lovely.
And Jen was answering the question, or Travis was via Jen, Pennsylvania, of course, as you said. And Mum says hi as well. How about that?
Oh.
My 87-year-old mother, who when she heard I was moving to Portugal, she said, why are you doing that? What do you? And after about the 3rd visit, she finally said, "You're not moving to Portugal until after I die."
Oh, bless.
Oh.
Right.
Well, I said, Mom, you're going to live to be 100. I am not waiting to get on with my life until I'm 80 years old. And now she's my biggest fan. I send her pictures and.
Terrific. That's lovely. Yeah, so clearly her plan didn't work out. And here you are, there she is saying hi tonight. Fantastic. Deagle from the Crumlin Road in Belfast. Wow. Well known around the world, I think, hoping to retire from the Royal in 3 years and will be 55. Been learning Portuguese for 10 years.
Wowzers.
With holidays here for 25 years, 2 or 3 times a year. And Deagle, you'll know, of course, is a full-on gumper every morning. But I didn't know your credentials went quite that deep, Deagle. Jeff also here from the United States tonight. Good evening to you, Jeff. Another gumper for sure. We have our Christmas song to be debuted soon. The Gumpers Christmas song is in, and it's fantastic. And lovely to see a Fever Stock photo, Jeff and everyone. Deagle having a chat. Running away, talking about the positioning, and you, Lonny, talking about how you're starting a new life. And I was looking into this distinction of are people running away from something or running towards something. Suzanne running away from what I see as a deteriorating social and political situation. Yeah, and sadly in the last few days that's looking even more like flaring up, isn't it? Over and above what's standing there at the moment, as many people are running away from, I think, and preparing to embrace a new paradigm in Europe. Now, I'm interested in this, how Americans see Europe, because we came from Europe to be in another part of Europe, didn't we?
Yeah, and actually the place we came from is no longer considered Europe anymore, is it?
Not in the political sense.
Yes, not in the political sense.
And I think a lot of British people would actually like to take themselves out of the continent as well as the European Union. But there you go, which I know will not be without its own challenges, says Suzanne. So Suzanne, do you care to name them? I mean, we might be able to help.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned Jim before, but we've got others. James Holly in the morning, a psychotherapist from California, very interested as well in this whole aspect of moving to Portugal as an expat and what might come up in that process.
Well, also Lonny can give some advice on challenges as well.
That's why he's here tonight. But there's a team. There's a community within this community of people who are interested in the touchy-feely side, some would call it, or the other side of becoming an expat. And I think I'm all for it. Who is that hammering away on a Saturday? Who's got banging going on in their house? It's not us, is it?
Well, I know we don't.
Because we're both here. Right.
Not unless the kids are doing some DIY.
The Glens of Gormley. Flecking freezing, 9 months of the year in Glengormley. Cold, snowy, frosty Glengormley, Maulusk area. So a bit of Irish talk going on there. I feel totally isolated in Finland, says Suze. Good evening to you, Suze. Another gumper from the morning. So grateful for this Portugal community. Few expats here, maybe none where I choose to live. Feel optimistic about more community in Portugal with and beyond God and GP. That's growing old disgracefully. She's not putting herself beyond God. Although some would in our community, wouldn't they? And the creature in the picture is Best Buddy Taxi. Good evening to Taxi as well tonight. So that's lovely.
It's interesting. We're making quite a few connections with Scandinavia at the moment.
We are, aren't we?
Yeah. So very recently, Lonnie, we've met quite a few Americans who have moved over here who wanted to meet with Carl, and we've hung out with them and kind of welcomed them and everything, and also people from Scandinavia. This central Portugal, just Portugal in general, just seems to be a real hotbed for that activity.
Scandinavian action.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. So Movember then, Lonnie, if we could talk a little bit about that. You
Sure.
That came to mind when
I feel like I'm participating.
Were you growing a moustache?
On my legs.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Can you feel it?
When you saw Mrs. M shuffling towards the camera, it wasn't to get a better angle. It was so I could hold her foot.
Did you see Carl shuffled closer to the camera, and then I did after, and it was because he was grabbing my foot to massage my leg.
Lonnie, if you want to put your foot on my lap as well, you're very welcome. Give me a foot rub. That's all part of the value of the show as being a guest here. Lonnie, wonderful. So before we go to Movember, great, wonderful story. I've been disarmed by 2 shop owners from whom
How?
Disarmed in a good way.
Oh.
She hasn't gone in with a gun.
Oh my God.
She's not
Yeah,
gone
I
in.
read that completely wrong, didn't I?
Just because she's American doesn't mean she went into a shop armed. I've been disarmed by 2 shop owners from whom I ordered expensive things. One made me take some things home.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let me pay ahead. How about that? Would never happen in the United States. There you go. And Chris missed out on you just a moment ago. Been in Germany for 12 years. German is quite good, but I still don't use it at work as I want to be at my best. Soon I'll be having to learn another language. Yes, Portuguese. Very different, I would suggest, to the softness of Portuguese. Certainly in my experience from learning German at school, I'm enjoying learning Portuguese a whole lot more. Movember then. Have you engaged with this practice before, Lonnie, this whole growing a tash in November and the whole thing about male mental health?
I've had conversations about male mental health, but the mustache thing has been going on for about 14 years. So
way ahead of the curve. Very good. So, okay, the whole idea of Movember is to get men talking, particularly the male health challenges, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and of course men committing suicide. Let's just be straight about it, and the struggles men have with mental health issues. Do I just ask you the question, why don't men talk?
We should ask women that, but
yes.
We'd like to know.
Yeah,
and
what is
we
it?
would probably have a very different theory as to why you don't talk. And that might not be right.
Well, I've got my theories. I've got my theories for sure. And I've got my own professional experience, and I've also got my own life journey as a man. I read a book a number of years ago that I found very useful. It's called Finding Meaning in the Second Half of Life, and it's written by a well-known Jungian analyst by James Hollis, I think his name is. Hollis is his last name. And I began to pursue some of the work in there. And one of the things I discovered about myself is that the professional career, this was completely a blind spot to me. I'd gotten really, really good at tuning out, disregarding my emotions. I mean, they get in the way. They get in the way of being productive. They get in the way of being effective. They get in the way of marching on, and they don't belong in the workplace. And there's a whole thing about the feeling stuff, and women will tell you about that, how horrible it is to be with unfeeling sticks that men tend to be. And,
what?
Yes. So I started talking about this subject with a number of people, both in the medical profession, psychologists, people in the field of transformation. We had some interesting discussions, but there's a woman, what is her name? It'll come to me. Gloria Wilcox. Gloria Wilcox, and you may have seen it. It's called The Feeling Wheel. And the feeling wheel starts out with the center of the wheel has happy, sad, angry, like 4 or 5 or 6 emotions. And one of the discussions is man was having it. He said, well, men are aware of about 3 or 4 emotions: happy, sad, frustrated,
Horny.
angry. Exactly. That's the other one I didn't want to say.
So hold on a minute.
Horny.
I only heard horny there. What was the other 3?
It sounds like the dwarfs. Like
It's kind of like that.
happy, sad, horny, and
what was the 4th?
hungry. Sorry.
Stop it, please.
Sorry.
This
I mean,
is a serious
it's my
issue.
like attitudes
You're
like
not
this
helping.
don't help
Exactly.
the men.
You're not helping.
It's no surprise you don't express yourself.
Exactly. You're making me clam up here.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
But we really aren't. We're trained not to involve ourselves in how we feel. Buck up, toughen up. Your job is to be the provider and the warrior and the soldier and the blah 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 blah. Feelings don't work well in any of that, and as a result, there's a lot of anxiety for men, a lot of bottled up emotions, inability to express themselves fully. If you don't have the vocabulary to name what you're feeling, you're cut off from yourself. There's a limit to your ability to connect with another human being if you can't connect with yourself. So it's important to do that work. It's important to there's a sensation in my body and I don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
That's pretty disconnected.
Yes.
So, and I think
I'm sorry I laughed about horny and, tried to bring levity, but yeah, I mean, we've got 2 boys, and so we're trying to teach them to really express themselves, and that it's completely okay. And even though we've not said buckle up, and when they cry, all we do is just give them our time and our love.
Yeah.
Even with just us loving them, they've still picked up from the culture, from TV, from they just pick up this idea that they have to be stoic, and not show emotions. How do you overcome that, Lonny?
Suffering a lot.
Yes, it's true, isn't it? That is true.
And at some point, you either confront the suffering and you go get help, or you have some kind of a dark night of the soul experience where you come through the other side. And unfortunately for most men, it is a lot of that, or drinking, or drugs, or a number of other ways of dealing with things. Sex, there's a lot of ways. Well, a lot of ways that we comfort ourselves without dealing with. There's a feeling that's unpleasant, and if I'm willing to go through that and experience it and name that, there's something quite remarkable on the other side of it. And that's
sorry, Lonny, go on.
That's the hard journey. The hard journey is confronting the experience and moving through it to see what's on the other side.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's mirrored by a few people in the chat room. Jim White, our good pal, who's coming over here soon, said, I had a heart attack in the late 80s and discovered that I was breaking my own heart by ignoring my emotions, which is completely backing up what you're sharing there, Lonny.
Yeah, that's Jim. Yeah. Jim mentioned before. Yeah, absolutely, Jim. And it was amazing to hear your inspiring story.
Yeah,
a little bit of catching it, because there are the number of things I want to come back on with what you were sharing with us there, Lonny. But Carlos and Lisa, I mistook this for us. It's Carlos and Lisa, a different couple that sound like us. Lisa, would like to hear thoughts about leaving a mother of 91 behind. Mm-hmm. So we'll come back to that. We'll after we'll come full circle on that. But that's a great question, Lisa.
It's a fantastic question. I mean, it's one that has come up, for us in the Munson household.
It's a present thing for me. Absolutely is. Thank you, Lonny, for sharing your sweet story about your mum. Hard as it is, we can't wait to realise our dream to live in Portugal. So there's somebody dealing with something similar by the sound of it. Mandy there. Same household as Jim. And Aviva is here as well. Hello, Aviva. I know somebody interested in what we're talking about tonight as well. Good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Mandy, what piece of clothing should we make sure to bring to be comfortable in Portugal in December? Gloves, hats, scarves, earmuffs. Yes.
Trainers.
Oh, trainers, so you don't slip over on the calçada.
Definitely have trainers. have some cardigans and jumpers, have things that scarves, things you can put on and take off. Layers.
You want layers, Mandy. That's the thing.
But trainers, definitely.
Trainers and layers for sure. Portuguese people like a lot of layers of wool.
They do. Yeah.
I'm glad you made it, Lonny, against the odds. Good for you. Thumbs up there from Square Eyes. Great. Susan Duringer, I see Portugal as the most stable and congenial place in the EU. I have to agree. And originally intended to apply for a D7 visa. As I've said in the past few weeks, I'm now gathering documents for Italian citizens as well. Yeah, okay. So I think spreading your bets there, that's a wise strategy. Doesn't Amazon Alexa work in Portugal for mum communication? It will do, for sure. And it sounds like you've got your own way of doing that. But we will come back to elderly parents in a little while. Z-Trader, I heard that D7 approval is very slow now, should take 6 months or more. Not necessarily, depends on the consulate, depends on, it's a number of things at work in this process. So, and
also what kind of state you're in as well, because I was only thinking about this the other day, because we met a young mum in a park, and it totally reminded me that when I was pregnant, you get pushed to the front of every queue. So like,
I see, even for Seth.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Every single time.
Yeah.
You are like, that's why we got our driving licenses changed really quickly, because I was pregnant.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I hadn't made that connection. Okay.
Yeah. So like, if you're seen to be pregnant with a disability or of a certain age, then you will get pushed forwards. Or also if you've got small children, like children under the age of 3.
Who are shouting and screaming.
Yeah.
You can borrow our kids for that. But so Z-Trader, yeah, I think it does. I mean, that can happen. And we hear of this in India, for example. It's very difficult at the moment, but it's still happening for some cases. We love to work with EI who get good results on this. And they're only slowed down by the delays at the other end with CEF and consulates and so on. But that's more of a Monday morning thing, Z-Trader. Join us for that, or speak up in the forum about those sorts of issues. We're hanging out, having fun, talking about serious things tonight on Feelgood Portugal. Deborah Davies is joining us, just back from spending 48 hours in the UK. Can't tell you how pleased I am to be back in Portugal.
Deborah, share with us why.
Yeah.
How was it in the UK? I'm really curious, because I'm hearing so much from family and friends. I'd love to hear.
Hoping to move to Lisbon by 2025. Good thing is I have EU citizenship, which I hear makes things a bit easier. It does. Absolutely makes things easier. You might want to do it. You might want to do it before then, even. That could work in having a sort of preemptive stay and getting your residency. Maybe again talk to EI about that. And yes, Jim, that lovely comment you made earlier on, just on the screen again there, which brings us back to men. And 70% of communication is non-verbal, which I think is very relevant to this conversation, because it comes out anyway, even if men don't talk about it, doesn't it? It tends to. In work, men are encouraged to not express emotions to get the job done and be competitively productive to the extent that probably harms them. Now, Lonny, taking you back then to the situation it sounds like you're in as a business guy, and emotions not being appropriate or useful when it's, chop, busy, let's get this done here. That was a situation you started to do the work, I think you said. What work? Yeah, what is the work? What is the work that you did in that time to reframe or re-educate or whatever it did to yourself?
Well, I had to have a crisis, and I ended up with what was believed to be a terminal cancer diagnosis.
My goodness!
Wow! And there's a whole book about that's yet to be written, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But it led me to a lot of self-discovery work, and I am privileged to have the most amazing resources and great people in my life, and great friendships, so I can talk to people when I'm struggling, and many people can't. But I started doing the work of identifying my emotions and actually studying emotional intelligence. That whole paradigm of tough it up, that is now more than ever bankrupt, at least in the United States. progressive companies that are going to probably survive this mess we're in, are people that are dealing with what we'll call hard issues.
Yeah.
Genuine concern for their people. People have a sense of belonging to something. They have resources where they can express themselves and work through issues and provide some of those services for people. We can't continue to have businesses do well at the expense of their people. That's a very short-sighted view, and I think we're at the end of that story. But I started doing. There's a great tool called Mind Journal. It's a project that's done by a psychologist and has influence of a brain scientist, and it's a journal that you can buy. In fact, I think they're from the UK, and it's a great tool. On one page of the book, it lists probably 60 feelings, and it says, how do you feel today? And you look at the feelings and you sort of identify how you feel. You know, at first, when I first picked up that thing, I was like, I don't know how I feel. I feel fine.
There are 60 feelings.
Can I just check? Was there the option of putting fine? Was fine on there?
No. But there's a box. There is a box. It's blank. It says other. You can fill in your own. But the joking aside, the process is quite well done, because the first step is to check in with how you feel. The second step says, what are your intentions for the day? What do you intend to accomplish today? The third thing is you say what you're grateful for. And then the fourth thing on this page says your happy hour. And that means, what are you doing for yourself today? You're going to go to the gym. You're going to have a glass of wine with your friends. It could be anything. And then for 10 days on the right side of the page, there's one day has one question, and you just answer that question. The second day, there's another question. You answer that question. And the journal is designed to have a man get in touch with his feelings, create an intention, and develop a discipline for self-care. After 10 days, it says, congratulations, you've completed the first 10 days. Same thing all the way through the book. The next 10 days is a little bit of a deeper question. The third 10 days is a little bit different depth of those questions. And then by the time you've gone through 30 days, you've developed the practice and the discipline. And I was really shocked, but by about 20 days, I had a completely different experience of my day and myself and my life. And people around me started noticing that I was less in my head and less busy and less concerned and on a mission and all that stuff, more available. And then the second half of the book, for another 30 days, it just has the structure, how you feel, your intentions, your happy hour, what you're grateful for. And then the rest of the book is blank, and you just every day you now have a practice. And then when you've gotten through that whole thing, they have a blank book that doesn't have the guided questions. And I've been doing that. I bought the book for my first trip to Portugal, and I started when I was here. I was never a journal keeper. I never did any of that. I thought all that stuff was kind of silly. And I'm a guy. That stupid fluffy stuff. And it's really been great. Carl, you guys know I lost my backpack while I was here on this trip. Yeah. And the most upsetting part about losing my backpack was that my journal was in there.
Yeah.
And so I was like, God, I did some really great work the last 2 weeks, and I was really upset about that. And I bought a new journal and started all over again. But it's simple. It's simple stuff, Carl. It's not. Look, and it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Part of it, I think, is the willingness to say, I'm not taking care of myself. My needs aren't getting met, and I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
I know I'm not okay. Well, if I'm not okay, then take the case your needs aren't getting met.
Yeah.
And if your needs aren't getting met, then what do you need? And look, I grew up thinking somebody else is going to take care of me. Somebody else, I'm going to have the right partner, the right spouse. Somebody's going to make me happy.
Oh.
the right situation is going to make me happy. If I have enough money, then I'm going to be happy. If I have the right job, then I'm going to be happy. If I have the right career, then I'm going to be happy. If I live in the right house, I'm going to be happy. It's a horrible trap.
It is, isn't it? Especially, I mean, part of that is that sometimes those things don't come, and then even when they do come, it doesn't necessarily happen, does it? Which is
well, I think that's the joke. You know, as long as the stuff doesn't come, you at least have hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when the stuff comes, and you've got the same crap.
Yes.
You know, you guys know I did a lot of personal development courses and programs. I led programs for over 80,000 people all over the world, and I've had some of the most amazing, well-known, famous, successful people say very much this. You know, I've accomplished everything I ever dreamed of having, everything I've ever wanted, and I'm more miserable than I've ever been.
Yeah. Yes, I mean that's profound, and can only, I mean, that's the lot of us human beings, though, isn't it? Is that we can only find that out by finding it out. Because when that person says that, because there's that great film, isn't there, about the guy who made the movies with Jim Carrey, the early films that Jim Carrey made, the director of those films, and he had a cycling accident, I think, where his life was turned upside down.
What's his name?
And he said exactly the same thing. But and Jim Carrey's the same, isn't he? Jim Carrey's been on record saying, you know, all this money and fame hasn't really helped. But no one believes it, do they? No, everyone wants to try that first before they can agree with Jim or the other fella.
Well, it seems easier to go out here looking for something that's going to make you happy than to actually confront that you had it all along.
Yeah.
You have everything. Wow. You have everything you need.
Yes.
And that's a hard lesson. That's a hard lesson in the world that we're in, where everybody's selling you something else that's going to make you happy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I still don't know what all four were. So is it happy, sad, angry, and sexual? Was it?
Let me look. I'm gonna look. That's
my guess. That's my guess. Well, you're finding that.
Let me see. There's sad, mad, scared, joyful, peaceful. And I can't read because my eyes are not good. I can't see.
It is like the Seven Dwarfs.
But it's very basic stuff. It's what you feel. But then if you radiate out past those 6 original things, like for example, mad. Well, there's degrees of mad. There's hurt. There's angry. There's hurtful. There's critical. There's hostile. So that's a little more subtle. Oh, what kind of mad are you? Well, I'm hurt, or I'm hostile, or I'm selfish.
Or bonkers. Like in England, we say people are mad if they're a bit bonkers, a bit
crazy,
a bit like wired differently.
Yeah,
I'm sure we've been described as mad.
Being pissed in America is like being angry, isn't it? And being pissed in England is being drunk.
Yeah.
But anyway, the feeling wheel, you can Google it. It's simple. There's a bunch of them out there, lots of different versions of it.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And you know what, I've really learned something in as much as I think I've always been a very emotional person from, in one of those sensitive kids. And I think the thing for me has been managing that in terms of expression. So I knew all the time that I was constantly upset by things from being very little. Like it didn't take very much at all to just feel upset about everything, like typical sensitive kid, and having a very alpha male sort of dad. It was
two very emotional parents.
Two very emotional parents myself, but like a dad who would just call me a sissy for being upset. Yeah. So I had to kind of manage that really well. But it's not been about recognizing that I've been upset, since as long as I can remember. But the communication of it is, and that's the next bit in a way, isn't it? Because it's one thing to develop the repertoire of like you say, you've nailed it there, haven't you? I have this strange feeling or sensation in my body. I don't know what it is, and then that causes you to do some work to discover what it might be. But then there's the other part.
And the courage that it takes to say, when you said blah blah blah, I felt hurt.
Yes, yeah.
And I just want you to know that I felt hurt by that. I'm not blaming you. I'm letting you know that I felt hurt, and I didn't say anything about that.
Yeah.
And it opens up a new kind of dialogue between people.
What I'm hearing here is that you're learning a really good way of articulation, like a really good way of expressing how you're feeling, and also owning it as well. Because like a lot of people, like, you did this, you did that, you've made me feel like this, God damn you. And it's endemic in our language, isn't it? I mean, we hear it on films and music and media, and it's a language pattern that's almost installed in us from an early age, and we take it on as if it's true. So what I'm hearing is that these tools are giving you a new way of talking about things and receiving things.
Yeah, and I mean, we
have more compassion for other people as well, because
yes,
I've been unkind. I'll just say it like that.
Haven't we all?
And that's
I can
hard.
put my hand
That's
up
hard.
to that. I have. Well, for
no,
sure.
I never have been, but I can understand that you two might have been. I get it.
If I had a pillow, I'd be like lobbing it over.
So of course,
we do know that you're definitely the victim of Louisa. It's just a terrible thing.
It is. And this is every Saturday night. It's like a cry for help, isn't it? We're here together on the screen. Okay, joking, everybody. Anyone who's not used to this sense of humor here, that is a joke. No need to. And that does remind me of a story that I've had reason to tell quite a few times, but with a girlfriend in a restaurant. And
it wasn't me.
It wasn't Louisa, but this cry for help thing. She was right. I think I was very rudely. Maybe this is why she did it. I think I was looking at the newspaper that sometimes is in a cafe or restaurant, and she had a newspaper as well, and she wrote "help" on the newspaper. And when the waiter came over for to take our order, she was holding up a piece of paper saying "help" on it, and as a joke, right? And then. So that's good. I don't think the waiter saw that. And then about 5 minutes later, the police came into the restaurant, and I must have turned ashen, and I was deeply shocked, thinking this joke has gone horribly wrong. But they were just in there coincidentally. But who does that? It was a complete coincidence. I think they had a window broken, so the police came to take a statement. But there was that timing was just awful. Heart-stopping moment. And what sort of lady does that sort of thing, honestly? Anyway.
Is someone very insecure?
Someone very insecure?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I read that she's unlikely to be watching. I read that but if you are, I don't know what to suggest, really. Talk to Lonny. I read that men's biggest fear is to be humiliated. If that is true, it explains a lot. Oddly enough, can't remember what women's biggest fear is. And we see that, don't we? As a man thing, being humiliated. Alone on on the landscape, on the stage, or wherever in front of your community. But excuse me, we needn't.
I think humiliation is big with women as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I mean, it's. I think it's like a cultural thing, isn't it? We're afraid to let our needs be known.
Yeah.
Show our vulnerabilities.
Okay, maybe it's rejection.
Yes,
that's a form, isn't it? That's a form of humiliation, anyway, I guess, isn't it?
Well, if you look at the other side of those emotions, at least my experience of myself and the people I interact with mostly, those anything that's a threat to belonging.
Yes.
Anything that would have you experience being an outsider or left behind or left out. So, humiliation is, you're outside. So it's a break in belonging. And belonging is so fundamental to being a human being, belonging to your family, belonging to your community, belonging to your culture. And I think it's one of the things that COVID has opened up for all of us is deep wounds about what have I belonged to that I now no longer belong to. I'm separated from my family. I'm separated from my business. I'm separated from my job. I'm separated from my community. It's been a very traumatic and disruptive time for people.
Isn't it just? Yeah. And
of course,
Ira, if I can just add, with men, because we were talking about men.
Yes.
You don't stop us now. Now we've opened up. Men within their community, their own sort of male communities, like your gang, your peers, is a very interesting sort of conundrum of like belonging, but not risking that belonging.
Yeah.
So you might not say things that would risk your confirmed membership. Yeah, and that might end up being very shallow in a way that I think groups of women are a little bit more willing to take a risk, or culturally, I don't know, whatever it is, but women might delve into areas of conversation that men might not. And that's what this whole Movember thing is about, isn't it? Is to maybe push the boundaries, because I think men aren't loners so much anymore. I mean, men definitely doing, having their men's night out and their man caves and all that sort of stuff. It seems to be about the limits of their willingness to express themselves. And
Carl, don't you think that if you look at the man cave idea, for example, or a pub or a bar room or a gym, you look at the places where men collect,
yes,
and if you just listen to the conversations that people are having, there's no connection at all. There's a feigned, agreed upon kind of BS. We'll talk about sports because that's safe. We'll banter back and forth about women or sex, but there's all these safe conversations, this sort of pretend bonding, because it's better than nothing, but not really. And then you walk away, just as empty as you were when you went there, or now empty and drunk.
Yeah.
What a grim picture. Shout out. And my favorite thing to do in that situation is just to shout out a random loud noise.
He actually does that.
But that's not very helpful, is it? It's not doesn't give much away as to where my emotional state is.
No, I tell you what, we've got some really beautiful comments.
Come on, let's do them in order though. Don't, because you come in here and you read up random comments and I feel like I'm missing somebody's precious comment.
What do you mean? I come in it. I was here right at the start.
All right.
And then you came in here.
No, I mean in the
and
way.
went
I mean in the
up and down.
Help, Lonny.
I'm gonna. I don't even know where to start because you've
upset you.
No, because you've gone up and down.
No, I haven't. I think we're looking at slightly different. It's typical. We want the same thing here, but we're going a different way about it. Therein lies the rub. On the news recently, 10-second hug is the best. I would do that to you now.
Oh my God, that's hours ago.
Yeah, but we didn't read it out, did we? We didn't read it out. We that's what I mean.
Sorry.
I'm looking to take my folks with me to Portugal. It'll be like herding frogs. There's a solution. If you can master expressing one emotion, happiness, it becomes easier to express others. Interesting, Carlos and Lisa. Mastery, self-mastery. Merino wool is great. That's going to be good for the winter comments, I think. There, men are more confused than ever, says Aviva, at least in the US, as to what is acceptable and how to navigate the emotional landscape. Yeah. Deagle, question to Lonny. Do you use any Portuguese language, verbal reading, or do you get by in English? Just a quickie there.
I get by in English. I really do. I say I've got my Desculpe no falo Português, preface to most everything I say, but people are kind.
Okay.
And people also want to practice their English.
Yeah.
They do like the opportunity.
Yeah. D7 took 1 month. There you go. In answer to Z Trader, 1 month through the Washington DC embassy. 6 months. Z Trader does sound a long time. Even with all that's.
Well, I think they're probably talking about the preparation. Yes, but when you get all your papers in, it took me 4 weeks from it took 4 weeks from the New York consulate.
Yeah.
But I worked with Gilda and her people from April until July, getting all my documents together. This is during COVID, so everything was shut down. It was a little more difficult. Yeah. But there's getting the documents and all that stuff ahead of time.
All right, C Trader. Gilda is the leading light of EI in our business directory there. This is interesting. This is an angel, did you say?
They're angels. Those women really are angels.
no male mental health problems there. It's a company of 22 women, I think. Now that must bring its own challenges, but there's no awkward fellas in that place of work. My male clients say they don't get the support from their women when they do share. Now that would come as a real, that's a secondary thing, isn't it? Is maybe in partners being able to handle the new way. Because I mean, it must come as a shock, mustn't it? I want to open up with you.
It's a weird one because like Carl and I keep looking over the desk, and as I look at him, it looks like I'm looking away.
She's not.
I'm really not. I'm looking at him. But I mean, you would probably say that about me sometimes, wouldn't you? That I'm not that supportive, and
I would say you're looking at me.
Okay. And I would say the same to you sometimes. I think sometimes, you know, when you're very close. Yeah, but you put much higher expectations on each other.
Yeah, I think this is probably perhaps at the beginning of a man changing his style, because we're not averse, or you're not averse to saying to me, I don't think you're listening to me.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to complain to somebody else about that. You can complain. No. You can get my complaints book out and put that and register that straight away directly with me. The problem.
I'd love your complaints book.
And then no, you can't have it. But this is I don't know if you've seen this, Lonny. This is a thing in Portugal.
In Portugal, they have complaints books everywhere.
Yeah, the Livro de Reclamações, and so that it's the complaints book. You can ask for it if ever you're in need, you know, of wanting to escalate a situation. But I think if and this is an important point, I think, because if a man is making this first move out of character, you know, he's been inspired by Movember to suddenly own some stuff and say, look, I'm just going around raging. I don't know what it is. I think it's sexiness, you know, horniness. I think I'm getting hurt. I'm angry. I can't distinguish this thing. I just want to talk to you about it. And if the woman is shocked or unused to that, and she might just say, like, man up, or talk to your buddies about it or something like that.
Isn't that because we just listen in different ways? I mean, I know, and Lonny, I know you'll know this, because I'm sure you've heard people say this to you as a coach, but like, for instance, sometimes if I confide in Carl, I'm not looking for a solution. I'm just looking for empathy. And he goes straight to solution. He doesn't even listen to the whole thing when I tell him, because like all he's looking for, he's programmed to look for the solution. And so halfway through me explaining something, he's already boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, you're not listening to me. And then I feel like, oh, God, he really doesn't get me. But I think it's a male-female difference, isn't it? And likewise, you know, when he's like talking about his problems, I'm listening to them as a female. And we have very, very different languages, don't we?
Yeah, I want a solution.
I'm not sure if you do, actually.
I don't want a there, or, you know, or can I make you a cup of tea? Actually, I do want that. Let's have a nice cuppa. That's how all British problem solving should begin.
I think our most useful conversations, like when either of us say we've got a problem, is when the other says, okay, what are you looking for from me right now? And then that gives us the invitation to help the other person in the way that they want to be helped. But culturally, we're very different, aren't we?
Well, I think there's certain code. I think there's certain language that you can set yourself up for success. Certain things, like as an example, last night somebody called me for something, and very upset. They were being blackmailed by some internet thing. It was very upsetting. And I immediately did the thing that you said about Carl. I went to fixing it, because men are supposed to, men are supposed to be the mechanics of life, and we're supposed to get everything to work for everybody and fix everything.
Can I just check with every woman that's listening, is that the thing that you want, or the thing that you absolutely hate when your men fix you?
That's
just
disgusting.
Out.
It's so disgusting. It's so arrogant on our part to think that we have your answer, when in fact what you came to for us was help, whether it's a male or female. The thing that happened last night that was really great, because the person was a man, but he said to me, "That's not helping me."
Wow. Wow.
And I stopped, because all I want to do is help people.
Mm.
And when
That's
he said
brilliant.
that's not helping me, boy, that's a new tool for me. So
That's great.
now you hear the code word, that's not helping me. Then I can stop and I can look and I could even ask, what do you need?
Yeah.
I don't know what I need, but don't fix me. I just need to be heard. I just need somebody to be with me while I process this out loud. I'm hurting.
Yeah.
So that was a new lesson. That was a new one. And came from being an idiot.
No, that's amazing.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I need to check with you. I mean, we're an hour and 11 minutes into the show. Not once have I checked if you're happy to be going this long with us. And so I'm doing that now. Are you happy to go into a second hour and keep talking?
Carl, you forgot that I led programs that lasted 18 hours a day. So I'm
Of course I did. Okay, you're not going. You just like man up, Lonny, and stay for the duration. Okay.
When you've had enough of me, send me on my way.
Oh, bless you.
What we haven't actually mentioned so far to the audience listening tonight is that you two have something in common, don't you? Apart from your
fixing people
and chromosomes, it's like you have a form of coaching between you, don't you?
Yeah, we both, Carl and I, participated in transformational programs. Carl's case 20 some years ago, and I was so struck by the Good Morning Portugal show and what Carl was bringing together, this sense of community and the inclusion, back to that belonging thing. Carl, one of the things that you've done so well, and I've said this to you, is that people belong, and people belong to you. They belong to Expats Portugal. They belong to Good Morning America, Good Morning Portugal.
One day.
You're creating something, and that you take the time with every single person that sends a message, and you include them, and you remember their names, and that it does fulfill that belonging piece. And I was so struck by that. And you and I had a conversation, a Zoom meeting, and you asked me about my background, and I said that I had just recently retired from Landmark Worldwide, and I'd been leading transformational programs for the better part of 25 years. And he said, Landmark? Oh my God, I did the Landmark Forum in the UK. And do you know so-and-so and so-and-so? We had this great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the last time I did the forum, I reviewed it. And that must have been about probably getting on for 15 years ago. And I did it because I remember now, I did the forum and the advanced forum and some of the extra seminars. And I was working in a project that was quite a weird sort of project. And this guy came along who was quite extraordinary gentleman. And I discovered he was a Landmark Forum leader of some, he was certainly in the sort of more advanced echelons of leading and facilitating. And during this meeting that we were having, I was really impressed by the way he was managing himself and presenting himself and how he was being. And it was really quite a long and boring meeting. And he sent me a text message, because I think we'd swapped phone numbers or something to continue the conversation. And he sent me a message, "Hey, Mr. Poo Poo Head."
So where that comes from?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Just to lighten the mood. It was the most incongruous and strangest of things to happen, and quite risky, I thought. Yeah. And I think I probably burst out laughing out loud in this meeting where everyone was going off in this really dull direction. And this fella had sent me a text message saying, "Hey, Mr. Poo Poo Head," with a smiley face or something on an SMS. And I thought, I love this guy, and I love doing the Landmark Forum. I'm going to do it again. And I just signed up pretty soon after that, and just went and did it. And yeah, I think it was at that time possibly when I managed to get a home introduction from my parents as well. Yeah. In that second go. 15 years ago. Yeah, so big up, shout out to all the graduates and the wonderful people like yourself, Lonny, who have made such a difference in the world with that by pushing, by challenging and pushing and going beyond the normal realms of normal life and what we put up with in the way that we're talking about here. Going that extra or being that extra or whatever it is. Yeah, an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So we have Rebel Mama saying, great and heartbreaking film about macho socialization of men, tough guys. I don't know that, but we'll look that up. And Jim White echoing here, anthropologist Ariane wrote on the second half of life, which describes the universal journey through our life cycles. That's the book you read, right, Lonnie?
No, that's a different one.
Oh, I see. I beg your pardon. Right. Okay.
Yeah, but James Hollis's book is Finding Meaning in the Second Half of Life.
Oh, okay. So it's a known sort of area of study then, obviously. Yeah. Oscar Wilde says something like, "To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong friendship." Very good.
Yeah, it really is.
And do we? That thing about if we talk to us, if we talk to our friends like we talk to ourselves, we wouldn't have any. That really struck me when I was told that by the Chris Paradox, who some might know here. Did you, Suze? Did you ever hear that? FINE is an acronym for fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Yes, we did. That's why we love it so much, Suze. Yeah, and prefer not to use it if possible. Capricorn 12. Hello, Chris. It's important to understand how you feel. Know that your feelings are in control of the directions and decisions you take and make in life. Make understanding possibly a positive habit. Cheers there, Chris. How are you tonight? Hope you're well. I think there is a lack of understanding about how vulnerable men are when they take the risk to show themselves in this way. I think there's some truth in that. Thank you, Aviva.
A little bit further down the thread, there are a couple of people talking about the people that they know who have committed suicide. And right at the start of COVID, I've got 4 different. I mean, they're not like one of them was somebody that I actually knew, but then I had also 3 people who lost somebody through suicide, and they were all men in their mid-40s, and they were all single. And I was really quite taken by that, within a space of about a month and a half, to hear of all of those passings. I think it's more of a male problem than a female problem. I don't know that for sure.
Well, James Holly on the Breakfast Show said the numbers are similar, but men are more successful in taking their own lives.
Yeah.
Which I do make of that what you will, but that's pretty shocking, isn't it? That this is a mental health challenge for everybody. But men seem to be successful is not the right word to use, is it? But effective in their own demise.
I want to just simply have the opportunity. The one thing that I just want to add to this conversation about suicide. This is not my area of expertise, but there's a conversation now about us, the way we talk about suicide, and we say someone committed suicide.
Yeah.
And that's no longer useful. It's no longer a useful way of speaking about it. That what psychiatrists and psychologists are recommending we say is someone died by suicide.
Right.
Now it's a very subtle linguistic shift. Died by suicide is very different than committed suicide. And there's a whole world that gets pulled in when you talk about someone did that to themselves versus they died by suicide. We don't know what led up to that. We certainly don't know truly for the person the level of awareness that was happening when they did it. We don't know. And it pulls in all kinds of commentary about it. So I want to educate all of us because I was recently schooled about that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, we say someone died by suicide.
Yeah, I imagine that a lot of people who we hear about dying by suicide it happens through like sadness and through almost like coming up against, coming to a point where we just don't know how we can continue. And I also know people who have just lost interest in life as well. And I'm aware of many people actually who've lost interest in life and who believe that we are eternal beings. And actually I know of people who talk quite favorably about dying through suicide, with the ideas of just freeing themselves. Like they're very non-attached to their reality right now. And so a very, very different sort of kettle of fish, one where it's like maybe to escape the feeling of sadness and actually feeling like you can't go on, to actually feeling really empowered and kind of blessed to be able to take a choice or make a choice. So I can see why there might be that distinction.
Yeah, there's a whole range. Yeah, there's people in hospice. There's a whole range of what has someone end their life.
And it calls for conversation, doesn't it? That's
what this whole thing is about, isn't it?
Is being able to talk about it is so much more powerful than having these boxes and set descriptions and not being able to go there. I mean, to have a conversation of that kind is amazing.
That someone dies by suicide may not necessarily be tragic.
Wow. And it challenges. It challenges our very basic, our set pieces, doesn't it, and our set standards. Because I remember having a conversation with a guy he's quite a popular sort of men's group leader. He's a self-expressed individual, fascinating bloke. And we're having this conversation. I think that we might have had a mutual friend or associate or somebody we knew who died. And I said, so I was really sad to hear about so-and-so. And he said something like, I don't always think that automatically when people die. I tend to think, lucky bastard. And I was really shocked. But he's entitled to that opinion, isn't he? He's absolutely entitled to that opinion. Which kind of pushed a bit, at first hearing it, it really pushed my buttons. Like, you can't say that. That's really off. That's really out of order. But he was honest. Is what he actually thought, which was a new one to me, I have to say. Yeah. But this is the key thing here. We're talking about being able to respond, aren't we? We're talking about being able to converse, and so if to bring this back to the central theme of the conversation tonight, I was able to say to him, I'm shocked, man, by you saying that, rather just going off and thinking, I say that was a bit off what that chap said. I didn't say anything to his face, mind you, but we had a conversation about it, which is great.
Well, let's hope that we're getting to a place where we're at least identifying not just men, but since we're talking about men tonight, that we're in a place where we're beginning to identify what it is that we need, and that we're able to talk about and ask for what we need, and that we begin to develop the kind of conversations where we can hear that someone's needs aren't getting met. And that starts to open up a new world of, we'll call it mental health. Just being able to hear. We all have needs, and they're pretty basic stuff. We need to belong. We need to be heard. And if people have a sense of belonging and they have a experience of being heard and appreciated, that goes a long way to wellness and hopefully prevents tragedies.
Well said. Very true. And it's so strange that we even have a conceptualized notion of mental health, isn't it? Where people say things like, I'm struggling with my mental health. It's like, well, it's not a thing, is it? It's not a static thing. It's like, it's almost like that's such a primitive way of looking at it. I mean, I'm not criticizing anybody, but it does say where we're at, doesn't it, culturally, that phrase, that person says they're struggling with their mental health, often about a celebrity. It's definitely saying something about us. Chris, thank you for your comments. And it comes back to what we'll probably finish with, which is like expat guilt and leaving relatives younger or older. But that it's knowing what your needs are. So we'll tie that up, Chris, and we'll come back to your comment there. Jim White, Tony Robbins also describes 5 morning questions to ask to start each day. What are you looking forward to? What are you excited about? What are you grateful for, etc.? It sets a trajectory. Yes, possibility, Lonny. I like to remember that some of the best writers of poems and songs with their emotional experience or longings are men. Interesting, yeah. I was told by a close friend that they have everything. I was told by God they have everything, but they are kept awake at night with fears that all the wheels could come off any time.
Oh, yeah,
there we
totally.
go. There's humans being humans, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, you don't have everything.
Yes.
That's true, isn't it?
Yes. When my life is going absolutely perfect, like when I reach these pinnacles of delightful emotion, that's when I go into massive fear of losing it all. Like about 2 days or 3 days before we got married, I was full of this feeling of almost like exaltation. I just felt so blessed to be marrying Carl. And then all of a sudden came this massive panic attack that lasted for about a day and a half. And with each of my children, and any great, like, well, if we go out for a day out and we all feel fantastic, I come home and then I worry that I'm never going to see them all again.
Yeah.
Rather than just thinking, wow, what a fantastic day we've just had.
Which I try to fix, of course.
Yeah, you do.
I had that happen on my birthday. I created this incredible birthday trip. I timed my starting my new life in Portugal with my birthday. It was also 10 years of celebrating being cancer free, and I had so much put into this birthday, right? And I had spent the day with a photographer and learned some new things about photography, and had great food. And someone told me about this special place where the Portuguese go that's not a tourist place for fado, and I love fado music. So I had just this amazing day, and I was moved to tears many times during the day.
Beautiful.
The next day, I lost my backpack. Well, the miracle of my birthday is completely gone because, I have this tragedy called I lost my backpack. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I sort of subconsciously, I said to a friend, I just think I just blew it up. It was just too good. It was just, life was so great. I just had to pull the plug on it. I lost my backpack.
Yeah, amazing. It's like, if it's not God, it's yourself. Deagle, sadly, I live in northern Belfast. 1/5 of the killings incidents took place in 1 square mile, and now North Belfast has the highest suicide rate in Northern Ireland. It's so tragic to hear, Deagle. I don't know what to say. I seriously don't think that heterosexual men want to hear what's going on with their partners. It gets used against you and thrown back in your face. Yeah. Well, it could do, couldn't it? But then, then there's your second go, isn't there? Of saying, I told you that, and we've done this. I think I said that to you.
What's that?
To share that something serious to me, and now you're using it against me. Can you see that you're doing it? I think we've done that, haven't we? Someone else.
He does sometimes bring up stories of past girlfriends and wives.
No, hold on a minute. No, this is a particular thing here. This is the men's worry that what they say might get used against them. And I think I have said that. I think I've stood my ground when that's happened. Yeah. Not because you're a bad person or anything like that, but that's where we go to sometimes, isn't it? In a desperate situation, which sometimes a marital conflict feels like. Because again, it's rejection, it's humiliation, and I have been brave enough to say that. Is actually I told you that in a moment of vulnerability, and could you not use it against me now? And you've been gracious enough to say, yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that's great.
I think square eyes. That's what you got to do, and that's not what you've got to do. There's a serving suggestion. There's a serving suggestion for you.
The other resource is a great resource. They're just brilliant. The Gottmans, husband and wife. They're both psychologists, and their entire 30 years of marriage and career is couples research. Yeah, and they happen to be married. And there's YouTube videos with them, but what's brilliant about their work is that they have tons and tons of research to back up. This isn't just somebody's good ideas. This is scientific, structured tools for what to say and how to say things so that it's safe for someone to fully express themselves and connect deeply. And there's a whole system that the Gottmans use that make it really safe to be vulnerable. They're brilliant. So, the certain agreements that we have with one another, never, ever to make fun of or misuse something that's shared from that place. It just, that's intentionally hurtful.
Yeah, but Lonny, I mean, sometimes it doesn't go well. this is also life, isn't it?
That's right.
Sometimes it might not be okay, and people might be hurtful. And there's something to say about the context, isn't there, with this? Is that not every prepared move in a conversation of this kind is going to work out. But if you know you've got the long-term context to try again, that's very different to thinking, you know, like, pardon my French, but it's shit or bust. If it doesn't work in this moment, I'm done for.
Yeah.
You need to
be able to say, hey, we're in trouble here. Let's take a break. We're in trouble here. This doesn't feel good to either of us. Let's stop for a bit.
Wow.
When Carl and I first got together, we like our relationship would appear from the outside to have been very rushed. Like we got like I became. He knocked me up very quickly, but I mean, it was planned. We just didn't think it was going to happen quite as quickly as it did. And Carl proposed to me halfway through my pregnancy, and you know, it was a joyous thing. Like we like in our relationship, we've always worked very, very fast together. And then halfway through my pregnancy, he developed this love of all things Brad Blanton. Have you come across Brad Blanton before? He's written a book called Radical Honesty.
Oh yes, I do know about that. Yeah.
Yes, and he's very Marmite. Like in England, I don't know if you have Marmite in the US, but Marmite, like people say, you either love it or you hate it.
Donald Trump.
Yes, very much like Donald Trump. You either love it or you absolutely hate it.
Yes.
And Brad Blanton he was a psychologist of many years, and he worked with couples and he worked with loads of different people. And he realized that one of the biggest problems for people was blame, shame, guilt, and anger, which I'm sure you've come across. I've come across that in my coaching. Blame, shame, guilt, and anger, and secrets. You know, and secrets are there because we don't feel safe enough and vulnerable enough to talk. And so he came up with this idea of radical honesty, and he created some tools so that we could be radically honest with each other. And Carl bought the book, read it, loved it, then bought another 8 or 9 books to give out to family and friends
who don't speak to me anymore.
All of whom which decided they were A, not going to read the book, or B, were really offended that Carl sent it.
Yeah.
What do you mean I'm dishonest?
But anyway, his whole premise is you have to be radically honest, but stick around to clear up the mess.
Yeah,
and that's the biggest thing. Because like radical honesty on its own is, it's not really desirable by our modern day standards.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how to stick around and clear up the mess. And so he gives tools. And so we went away for a romantic weekend, and Carl produced his book and said, okay, I'd like us to do as this couple, this new couple's procedure that Brad Blanton has suggested. And he put us through this whole series of tasks, which actually took the whole weekend, where, and they were designed to let go of all shame, blame, guilt, and anger. And it was really, really touch and go. And I was thinking, this is really shit or bust, as Carl used that like language before. It was shit or bust. Like if we'd lied, we had to admit to the lie. And we'd both told a slight fib before we'd met, because we just met and we wanted to make a good impression. And so we both like changed the truth a little bit, and we both
you both said you were virgins.
Exactly.
No, but
I was
with 2 grown-up children.
Oh, yes, I was.
So like I remember feeling very sort of like vulnerable, like halfway pregnant. Well, no, pregnant, but like halfway through the pregnancy, and having to admit this. And then we did this big parade of going through.
I had noticed you were pregnant.
Past lovers, and had to detail what had happened, how it had ended, in great detail. And it was a whole series of tasks. But the most perfect thing that came from this, even though it was embarrassing, had me crying most of the weekend, the best thing was at the end of it, I realized that I could say anything to Carl.
Yes.
And
now she does.
Yes.
I hate that book. Not really.
But it was this deepening of trust that nothing I could say was that bad, because when we have told a lie, or when we've like not been complete. Yeah, like when we've told a lie, when we've been trying to change our image ever so slightly to be more acceptable, when we felt ashamed and we've fabricated something to try and like make us like paper over the cracks. When we've done that, we don't give our partners the chance to trust us or love us the way we are. And that whole experience taught me, though it was embarrassing, and though I would have rather
boil your head.
I would have rather pulled out all my toenails at the time than do those exercises. The actual result was deeper trust, and that was amazing.
That thing you said, that thing you said went by really quickly. But part of why it went by very quickly is Carl made a joke about it.
Yeah.
But when you said at the end of it, I knew I could say anything to Carl.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's something very profound about that, and there's something very sacred about that, and it's a place that almost nobody gets to, or if they do, it's impossible to maintain. It's uncomfortable for us. I mean, you guys, I know you both you come from that place. You relate to each other from that place. But even with the depth and profundity of that level of relatedness, it's uncomfortable. It's embarrassing. We make jokes about it, and we fill up the statement, and, you know. But it's great to see. You know, I just watched that happen here.
Yeah.
I just watched, you know, the magic of getting to that place, and then the embarrassment of it's so uncomfortable to have that kind of intimacy among people.
Yeah.
For all of us.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah.
And I have to say, it really was one of the best and most scariest moments.
Yeah.
Losing my voice now. Yeah.
Ooh,
where's my voice gone?
Wow. Okay. Now, in case you're wondering, and you've just tuned in, this is Feelgood Portugal. You'd have no idea from what we were just talking about that this is Feelgood Portugal.
I don't know. I think resolving issues and knowing that you can trust each other so deeply, that is feeling good.
That is Feelgood, no question about that. And, you know, the Portugal connection is that we're all having this conversation in Portugal, and the others watching, the regulars who know us and getting to know Lonny here, are also in that sort of condition of either being here or wanting to be here. So that's our community. And this is the Saturday night where we go in off-piste and into areas where other radio live streams dare to tread. And we've done it. We've done it tonight for sure. And I thank you all for your participation, attention, forbearance in this matter. Two of my three children know. Thank you, Deagle, for this.
I thought you were talking about your own children.
No, this is Deagle. Yeah. Now know more friends who've died through suicide than I have at the same age during the Troubles. It's an unbelievable situation there. And it sounds like, this sounds like there is something profound that could happen there in I don't know. It's easy for me to say and abstract it, but wouldn't it be amazing if that could be turned around through people being able to get to the bottom of this? Wouldn't it be in that space where those horrible things happened and where they seem to be continuing to happen, that something could occur where that could be turned around and that people could have hope and
I can't hear you anymore, Carl. Louise went off, and I'm not sure what happened. I can't hear you. See what happens when we talk about intimacy? We just go crazy.
Oh, forgive me. Sorry, I just needed to go
power.
to the toilet.
Forgive me.
I thought I needed to mute the mic.
You did. You did. You muted us all. It was lovely.
I'm so sorry.
We had a moment of silence while you were in the bathroom.
Take it over, Lonny. Take it over, Lonny. Louisa left and no sound.
I did that last week or the week before.
You did.
Okay, I will never do that again.
There you go. It's on record. Yeah. It's on record. But that's great.
Carl, one thing I wanted before we wrap things up, the one thing that I did want to mention, because it was a couple of people asked about it. The other woman asked about how do I deal with a 91-year-old mother, and how do you?
Yes.
And believe me, I'm new at this, but what I have discovered with my mother and with my family and with my friends is that I'm going out of my way to include them. I send them pictures. I send them text messages. I'm including them in the journey. So it's not like I've disappeared. Yes, I'm in another country, but I'm sharing, and I'm sharing the good stuff. I'm sharing the bad stuff. I'm crying about losing my backpack, and I'm including them in my life. So I think that's the big fear for people. So they're going to somehow lose us by being in a distant place. And I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you, and let's weave that in and see what others have to say. Let's go through the comment backlog that we have now, which I think will keep us busy for the next 20 minutes. And yeah, the other part of that, presumably, Lonny, is having the conversation with people, isn't it? The radical honesty. What do you fear when I go? What do I fear when I go? What are my needs in relation to this person? And what I can ask them what their needs are. And it's interesting. I think in many ways the relationship can be moved apart physically, but can improve, can't it? Emotionally and spiritually, because there is a newfound attention on it, ironically, as a result of this, which you seem to be part of what you were saying. I was there talking to uni students. This is Lee was here. Good evening to you, Lee, asking how it was on Plague Island. He means the UK. That was great, but I really feel worried about their future. This is the uni students that Deborah was talking to post-Brexit. Feels like a country depressed and conflicted. I feel both relieved and guilty to have escaped. And I wish for the same thing as Belfast as I do for Britain, is that, I think a lot of people do want a sort of political revenge with Brexit, but it's so important that no one needs to suffer, do they? And that we can, something good, it's happened now, and a new possibility, for heaven's sake, in that, on that beautiful island, in that amazing country that we came from. Yes, that is what I hear from my clients. That's not helping. I think it was that comment where that person said to you, Lonny, that's not helping. And what a great therapist to be able to take that on the chin, and then adjust. I recall, yes, I love that comment, Deborah. Quite shocking. And Deagle, with regard to where his children are at with losing friends, it's a sign of strength to ask for help or reach out to people with an open hand, saying you can help me. Saying you can help me rather than bottle it up. Absolutely. Thank you, Deagle, for your thoughtful comments tonight. Yeah. Some ancient cultures considered embarrassment or humiliation of another person almost the worst offense than killing another person. Yeah.
It is, because you've got to live through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humiliation and embarrassment can last a lifetime. And we've all felt that. I was thinking about something like that today, I think.
Yeah. Killing someone's spirit.
Yes, indeed. And going back to Landmark and my sort of rudimentary understanding of it, those are those personality creating situations, aren't there? Where in childhood we felt embarrassed, humiliated, or separated. We create a strategy for dealing with it, which we might not let go of for decades.
Trapped in a decision you made about yourself and about life.
Amazing, huh? Open your bottle, share it. Might not taste nice, but you're not taking it all, you're sharing it. Yep. Thank you, Deagle, again. Deborah, the patriarchy damages men as much as it does women. Thank you for that, Deborah. Jim?
I would also say the matriarchy does as well.
Okay. You're saying that with 15 minutes to go? You're a brave woman.
Sorry. I didn't mean to start the conversation.
I remember to Robert. Oh, the Iron John thing. I was really interested in that. I do agree with Deborah's comment, by the way, though. Yeah. Iron John, Robert Bly, the movement that started many men on deeper personal conversations. There has been something of an evolution with this, hasn't there? And I think it hopefully, generally speaking, I know we're losing individuals tragically, but hopefully collectively we are making something of an improvement or an evolution. 5, healing, learn to give time. You won't heal overnight. Don't beat yourself up. Again, Deagle, mate, your contributions are fabulous tonight. Square Eyes, women don't listen to men any more than men listen to men. Square Eyes, what's going on there? Women talk to their friends, who my female friends tell me are like bad reality TV show. Get a counsellor, much better.
One of the benefits of getting a coach or a counsellor is that you don't have to air all of your laundry with your pals.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so popular.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you get a better quality of listening.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay. Harshly a disagreement. What? I'm getting my mouse is moving me to places I do not want it to go. I'm shutting down WhatsApp on that basis. So harshly disagree with that statement of men's gatherings. I think it probably was a little bit of a caricature to make the point. But anyway, Lonny can speak for himself on that. I have plenty of supportive friends who are there for each other, as well as the banter. It's quite an unfair generalization that hurts men.
I think a lot of that.
I take it back. It was not. It was not intended to speak to all men's gatherings. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, you've been part of some men's groups, haven't you? And I see a different ethos between men of different generations. I think the role of man has changed in my lifetime.
Yeah, interesting.
I recognize that, like the sort of friendships my dad has are very different to the friendships that maybe your son-in-law has, and the friendships that our boys will have with their male friends.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of situation, isn't it?
Well, you heard what Lonny said there. He's withdrawn that. Truly a shame that all guys can't get lumped in the same caveman banner. When guys do chat, is where the problem lies. Sorry, but
again, my being clumsy. I apologize. That was not the point. Well,
yeah, thank you, Lonny, and thank you, Raphael, for speaking up. And we've dealt with it. We've dealt with it with an open and free exchange here. Beautiful. Raphael, spot on, and same would apply, I'm sure, for you, Jeff, there from Lonny. Uncle Lonny, what is the funniest thing that's... Oh, this is a great question. What's the funniest thing that's happened in Porto? Humour is good medicine when it's appropriately used. What is the funniest thing that's happened to you there?
I don't know. I'm still reacting to having offended people.
Oh no! Oh, come here. Let me give you a hug.
Yeah, 10-second hug. Right, I'm going to count this in. 2. It's going to be uncomfortable for the first 4 seconds.
Funniest thing. I don't know. I don't have like a.
We're hugging you. We're hugging you for 10 seconds.
You. I'm hugging you back. Thank you. I'm feeling it. You know, I don't know about funny things. I really do experience an enormous amount of joy, and it's a different emotion. You know, I think the funniest things are the stupid things that I say, not meaning to.
So funny for other people, perhaps, rather than be.
Well, I'll tell you one thing was when I was here last July, I rented one of those little Fiat 500s to get around.
It was a sexy little motor, wasn't it? It was beautiful.
It was such a fun little car. Well, you know, and I didn't know where to park it, and I asked the tavern owner, where can I park this car? I didn't want to get up every 2 hours and have to put money in the meter. And he said, park it over there. There's that one spot, and I got my car parked in overnight. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't get my car out. I had to turn it back in, and 10 o'clock goes by. I've got to get my car turned in by 11 o'clock, and I can't get my car turned in. I'm walking up and down the street, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Finally, at 11 o'clock, I called the car dealer. They're not answering. I get a recording machine. It was like this circus, and I'm freaking out. Oh my God. Then I like, Lonny, calm down. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to have to pay for another day of an automobile. And Carl said, be Portuguese about things, so just relax. But here's what happened. I went into the tavern where I had first asked, where do I park? The guy had been there. I was too embarrassed to say that I'd gotten myself parked in. But I finally walked in. I said, Pedro, my car's parked in. He said, oh. He said to the waiter something in Portuguese. He told him to go to the building across the street and ask the lady to move the car and get me out. Someone had parked me in that went to work, and she came out and she apologized for parking me in.
Yeah.
Now, what's the point of all that? Well, I was an insane person for about 2 hours needlessly, and and when I got in my car, I was laughing at myself, and I said out loud, "The lesson here is talk to people and ask for help. Talk to people and ask for help. Talk to people and ask for help." I was trying to handle it all by myself, and in the most welcoming, friendly, helpful country in the world.
I gotta go.
Oh, we're muted again. We're muted again.
Okay.
Okay, we'll just have a blank screen where Mrs. M used to be. She's got to answer the call of children there, but we can still hear for these last 10 minutes. Get to bed, you lot. So lots of respect for the response, Lonnie. So that's all done and dusted and sorted out. Even over this,
very gracious of you, Raphael. Thank you.
And that's very beautiful that we can do that. I think even over, we're all over the world, aren't we? At different places, and we've managed to just get there. With these exchanges. That's beautiful. Thank you, Raphael, for saying that. It really helps. Fever stock photo. You can't handle the truth. Is that Henry Fonda in 12 Angry Men?
No.
Possibly. I think I listen like the best of them, but 7 hours? How do you tell the other person when to stop? ask them politely, maybe. Let's do some more of this tomorrow. Jim White, men versus women, women versus men. What are the things we need that unite us versus rather than separate us? Indeed, and it's the needs, isn't it? It's the needs that are the uniting thing. I think. Yeah. Well said. Rebel Mama, my point was that some men express their emotions very well. Being published more than women was not the point. Okay, so there's a communication going on there. Well said, Lonnie. I'm not sure what that was about. It was a long time ago now, but I'm sure you're right. Great discussion. I can totally relate to always looking for solutions when my wife or kids wants to share a problem they're experiencing, says Chris. Glad to know I'm not the only one who does that. And Chris, you were saying earlier on about how you moved. Your mum wanted to be near you, and you were going to move to France, and she moved, and then you didn't go there. Similar things with my mum says things like, "Well, I'm glad I didn't move when you asked me to, because you moved from that place." It's like, Mum, maybe I wouldn't have if you had. Men solving a problem seems like a quick fix to me, Lisa, without teaching or discussing. Very irritating. Yep. Good evening, guys. I get depressed every Christmas just thinking about buying unnecessary presents. Well, to coin a phrase, you might want to create a new possibility for yourself this Christmas, Abel. Further details on the Landmark Education website. Further to Mrs. M, sometimes we women just want to express our feelings to get it out of our bodies. No solution necessary. Thank you, Suze, for that. Then we're free to move on to the next thing. And very healthy, I'm sure that is too. A good example. Pete's here. Pete Bleach. Hello, Pete. Suicide is extremely selfish. Odd that we, Carl, Lonnie, and me grew up in the MASH theme tune. Suicide is pain, so it brings on many changes, and you can take or leave it if you choose. Okay. An opinion expressed there. Raphael, always, Pete. Raphael De Furia, if you're about half the age of Lonnie, the social world of his generation imposed more restrictions on men's social interactions. Consider yourself lucky. There's a possible explanation there. Committed suicide has its roots in religion, where to commit suicide was to commit a crime against God. Yeah. Which is why it suggests you don't use the word commit, as that is a judgment. Wow. Deagle, Louise said, Carl, Lonnie, I work in Belfast Hospital. Sadly, too many colleagues have died by mental health. Who cares for the carers in society? It's a good question. And yes, it certainly needs addressing, doesn't it? It begins, doesn't it, for men, for all of us, with the talking, with the opening up and taking that risk. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, indeed. Always good to chuck into the mix. A quote that works for me: be careful what you think, or it may come true. So now when fearful thoughts show up, I say, sorry, you're banned. But doubt is allowed. It's a checking system for choices. Well done, Suze. Simon, hello, Simon. And I know Mrs. M welcomed you earlier on. Glad you're here. Not through choice. For a lot of sufferers growing up as children in difficult environments and kicked on the streets, yet one can feel very alone and unwanted with nowhere to turn. It can seem, it must be among the worst things ever, mustn't it, to face humiliation and rejection from parents. what a start in life, and what a lot of work that gives you to do. Totally hear you, Simon. It can seem like that's what people wanted to happen. My goodness. Sink or swim, try doggy paddle. Still here, though, but gas lit by the perpetrators, says Simon. Sounds like you've got some work ongoing there, Simon, and we wish you the very best with that for sure. And I know Louisa would, if she was still on the screen with us, and you know where we are. Marmite is the food equivalent of Donald Trump. In a way, yes. I don't want to trigger anybody. It was that might have been misunderstood there. Let's not talk about him right now. I've learned we have one mouth but two ears. Yes, listen twice as much as we speak, well said Deagle. And when a friend comes for help, you don't have to have your ready-made answer. You just need to listen. Be there. Don't judge. Thanks again. I am so happy to be part of this group. You all seem so genuine and thoughtful. Carl is blushing. I blush so much on this. This lamp here doesn't help, but it's true. It's all over my face often how I feel. This show will not be long enough. Lots more to continue with in coming weeks. Love it. So maybe we need a part 2 of Mr. McLaughlin. I hope so. And that's at that point we started to lose the sound, but we got it back. PMSL, Carl muted again. Yes, it happens. Internal sabotage on the mic. Yes. Amazing. Evening all from Dougie. Hello, Doug. Great to have you here. And then we were all back. Thank you for that, Lonnie. Great advice from Carlos and Lisa. I think mainly Lisa tonight. Thank you, Lonnie, for the ideas about including and strengthening connections, even from Portugal. That's been a great takeaway for tonight, hasn't it? Is how to, to perhaps attenuate or even replace the guilt and the sadness with some proactive connection. We're really getting a flock of deagles. Very good wisdom tonight. Lots of respect for the response, Lonnie, there. I'm lucky. I fell in love with my best friend, both age 16. We can talk, listen to each other without judging. How lovely is that? Our secret is spending time together. 1 hour better than 24 disrupted hours. Oh, that sounds lovely. Important to be able to come together and be able to have a conversation. That's what the most important part. Nobody needs to be right or wrong. Just get to the best place we can be. You know what, Raphael? I think that is the spirit of Good Morning Portugal. Is that we endeavour to make it a place where people can speak respectfully, we hope, and legally, we hope. But it's certainly not about being right or wrong. You can get that in many places, and this isn't one of them. I always say, don't judge me until you've walked 1 mile in my shoes. I love that joke based on that, isn't it? Don't judge a man until you've walked a mile in his moccasins. But then on the other hand, you will be a mile away and you will have his moccasins. I've been to Porto, Lisbon, Lagos, Faro, Tavira. I feel Porto is lovely for a holiday, Lagos for a longer stay, Faro for shorter stay, Tavira for the day. But for me, it's Lisbon all the way. That's a song in there, isn't it? And talking of songs, Warren is here, the writer of the most amazing songs for us. And your Christmas song, Warren, is delightful. Benoit Tourish, later I saw watching the rerun. I've only heard Lonnie for a couple of minutes and already like him. There you go. Great review for Lonnie from Warren.
Thank you, Warren.
And thanks again, Warren. We love you and your songs. Thank you so much. Meeting Carl and his family was like meeting an angel, says Chris. Left buzzing and feeling like all the troubles have been lifted from my shoulders. Oh, bless you. Igualmente. It was great to meet you too, Chris. And I hope we could do it again soon. Oh, what a lovely thing to say. Lonnie, that's bringing us up to the midnight hour, where I do not feel in any way tired. If anything, energized, inspired. And we have proved that some of us, even though we don't go out on a Saturday night, can stay awake past 10 o'clock. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Carl. It's great being with both of you.
And will you come back at some point?
Of course, I'm here. I'm all yours.
I think we definitely need. Look at this. Enjoyed the show and looking forward to a part 2 with Lonnie. So I think resident. We'll have to push the Lonnie button every now and then and bring you on. And have another night like this. It'd be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
One last thing I wanted to give you on my trip.
The floor is yours. You have the last word.
When I was on that trip in Amarant, I walked into the art museum and there was a exhibit of a neon sign. And I wanted to share this with everybody. The neon sign is a piece of art by Alicia Zegert. It says, this present moment used to be the unimaginable future. This present moment used to be the unimaginable future. That I'm here in Portugal is unimaginable to me. And I want to thank you, because you had a lot to do with this journey of me landing here. And I'm just deeply grateful for you and Louisa and your generosity and your love for Portugal and the way you share it with so many people.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed. And I want to be Portuguese about it and say de nada. And I've got a little bit of a bone to pick with that, because it's like, think nothing of it. It's very kind of self-effacing, isn't it? And I think it's very much a part of the beautiful Portuguese spirit soul. It's like, oh no, don't mention it. But I'll take that. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You've warmed the cockles of your heart.
Thank you.
All right, bye for now. Thank you everybody tonight, and we'll see you again. Thanks, Mrs. M. Ciao, ciao. Bye for now.